Welcome back to Dm-Nastics, the gym for dungeon masters to work out their minds. I'm one of your hosts, DM Neil, aka Jote Maniac.
And it's me, Celeste, your other host, aka DM Sea Witch.
Fear not, dear listener, she survived the con crud. She is back. We actually don't think it was from the con. It's a mystery, but...
It's a mystery. Quarantined 2 weeks and then got sick. How it happened, I don't know.
Celeste, the only way that I could find a replacement was to find 3 other people for the previous episode.
Oh my God.
It came as a...
So they all added up to make one. Yeah, I'll take that as a compliment.
It was a package deal. It was great.
Fantastic. 3 people stacked in a trench coat, I'm assuming.
Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing. But today, I forgot that that's what I named it. So today we're going back to the forums. So I've invariably tried to get the forums to revive. That's difficult. People don't like forums. So what we've been doing instead is trying to revive forums inside of a tinier window called Discord. That's what it is. You cannot actually convince me of anything else.
Yeah, it's basically just a Discord/IM chat, right? Yeah.
So you know what Discord decided to do? They added a forum function inside of Discord.
Oh, heck yeah!
So I started posting the exercises there. So check the show notes. We have a listed hyperlink called DMB Banter. So that's the link for the Discord. If you ever find that it's not working, try and find us on social media. Let us know. We'll update the link, but that way it's not one of those Discord links that invariably just doesn't work because someone made a new one. Blah, blah, blah. So it's hyperlinked. You should be good. But this one is not quite there, but the next one will be. But this one is entitled, We've Been Bamboozled.
Bamboozled.
Bamboozle is from, oh my gosh. This is because my wife watches Friends too much. There's an episode of Friends where Joey is trying to audition to become a game show host.
Yes, it's the name of a game show.
He has Ross and Chandler sit down to go through it. They're very reluctant. And by the end, they all love the game. It's the most overly complicated game show you've ever heard of. It makes me think of when in Parks and Rec, the Cones of Dunsparce comes up, like that level. And it's called Bamboozled. So there you go. And yes, I will not tell you how much I know about Friends. So what do we have for today's exercise?
Yeah, so today we are looking at false religions. So basically, sitting down and talking about false religions in a fantasy setting, so kind of the role they play in the world. So I'm assuming this is pretty much about religions that are, there's some core lie at the heart of them. They're not necessarily connected to true gods or anything of that nature, and how they can play a role in your fantasy worlds.
Yes, and I think it's a really interesting element because especially when you add them to the world, any D&D TTRPG world, it's always interesting how religions work because the fairly active role that the deities play in these worlds, I mean, to the point where they have direct connections, be it with the player or NPC.
Yeah, you can literally commune with a 5th level spell, that sort of direct involvement.
Yeah, the whole storyline behind the first couple of Baldur's Gates is the fact that you are Baal spawn, so your parent is a deity. So, and it's also really interesting having that touch point, but then also being okay, so then how do we form religions around those? And in some ways, I think it makes it really easy to lie about it because then you can just say, oh yes, this thing really happened. And it's easier to believe because they were all walking around, 100 years ago.
Sure, could. And also in worlds where you have lots of magic, you can do a lot more to deceive people or make things seem real. Or, why not? An archmage is basically a god, when we think of what they can do and the kind of stuff people can get away with. So
I think because of how big the conversation will be, if you're with me, I think we should highlight the one from Wizard Dofaus.
Very cool.
Who has an amazing
picture,
avatar
by
picture.
the way. Yeah. It's this red dragon with the cool wizard hat that's purple with stars. It's really great.
Please read aloud their favorite class and race.
Oh, yes. Favorite D&D class, Kobold. Favorite D&D race, Kobold. You're my favorite. As a
Done.
Kobold Press
You win.
representative, you're my favorite.
So the first question we had was, is it superstition or is it intentionality? Is someone believing something happened that maybe didn't actually happen, or are they going into this sort of situation knowing that it's a lie? And so the answer to that is basically both. And you'll see why soon enough. But and number two is, what part of the religion is false, or is it the whole thing? And it's the whole thing. So number three, the question is, what do they believe?
In an area of the world where it's usually snow, ice, whatever, the people believe in a god of ice and snow, referred to as the Boreal Lord. And it's actually because there's a camp of frost giants who live in the mountains and claim that they can, raid the lands before severe weather issues, saying, of course, the god told them to. The surrounded populace has learned that taking offerings into the mountains waylaid some raids, these suspicions. So basically, it's a very hard place to live, and the frost giants are working with this superstition to basically get what they want.
And like you said, so number four is, who is leading the false religion? So Burga, the chieftain of the Rhinefoot clan, she heard a voice in the sleet, and essentially these things happen. But it's going back to once you reach a certain power level, storm giants being, one of the highest in the ordering. The fact that I remember that makes me proud. Do I remember which order it is? No, don't talk about it. But the idea that once you're that powerful, the fact that you can live at the highest peaks of the mountains, as well as deepest depths of the sea, and survive at all, you have enough power to say, oh, these storms are coming. Don't do X, Y, and Z for the next 3 days because of these storms. And lo and behold, the storms happen I'd immediately assume you have magical powers because I watch the Weather Channel and it does nothing for me almost ever.
Yeah. You look at it, you're like, that's wrong. But when you're actually at the top of the mountain and you know when this is coming and you have some power to control weather as well, that seems pretty convincing.
Yep. So then leveraging that and then being able to build that superstition over time as well. Because really, if you think about accurately predicting the weather long before any of the modern technology that we have, you managed to do that a few times. It's really convincing.
Especially if you're already in an Arctic and cold, unforgiving climate, having that kind of information can actually be the difference between life and death.
What are the goals of the religion and its leaders?
Yeah, so we learned a little bit about Burga, chieftain of the Rhinefoot clan, who's kind of leading the show. And basically, her goal is to remain in charge and expand the clans in the area. But of course, the trouble is convincing all these other giants to really buy in, right? And not just constantly raid the people around, but time it appropriately so that people can buy into this religion, this prophecy all over the place, right? So that's kind of the goal of it. Her goal as the leader is all right, get everybody else, get all the other giants in on this. So these puny little mortals can actually start, selling the lie, and then we can just get away with stuff.
I like it. Why not? Once it works once, we got to start making it work everywhere. Come on.
Yeah, bring in more people on the con. You're going to get this going, right?
So the final one, which is, as we often do, is you do you. This is the reveal where the Boreal Lord ends up being an ice elemental, hiding inside of that original sleet and convincing Burga that it is their god, that they are communing back and forth. And so it is the goal. So it is the goal of this Fractilla is the name, basically, to expand their... That's
a good name for an ice elemental.
Expand their domain, because
good name.
If you think about it, there are just natural limits on the domain that an ice elemental could have on the material plane. So why not work towards making that more and more and more?
Yeah.
Because I feel like at that point, this is written well and in a way that you could start to do those same things in different areas, because I could change fire to ice or ice to fire and instantly have it be that, you know, they go to this volcano and
volcanoes are erupting, right? You know, that kind of like, oh no, everybody run, right? Like,
there we go. Well, thank you, Wizardofus. My confidence level is at an all-time low.
Wizardofus. Thank you. With your very cool avatar. Cobalt Love, thank you. Yeah, I like that. I feel like environmental issues are like a really good way to like center kind of a false religion, right? Because there's something that threatens a lot of people on a great scale. So obviously seeking comfort in something that feels like it could rival the scale of that is like a really compelling basis, either for superstition or like a true just falsehood, right?
And your options are just, I mean, especially once you start engaging the PCs with this process, like the options the options and what you should do with those options just present themselves almost immediately, because as soon as you start laying this kind of spotty framework behind something, they're just going to make assumptions, which that's what players do, because you're not just, I mean, I assume that you're not just lifting the DM screen and they're seeing everything. So the second they start engaging with it, they can start making their own ideas. And as we are all want to do, just steal those. Those are the ones you want, is whatever they come up with.
And what's great is like whenever you have something like a false religion or, you know, a cult or any kind of lie that a lot of NPCs believe, but your players have to come in and deal with, it is actually really important to create like a real reason why these NPCs, you know, buy in to whatever this is, because then it actually becomes an issue that's centered in like, oh man, hey PCs, don't take this away from us, because if we don't sacrifice, you know, our things to this deity, our crops will die. What are you doing? You're not a hero. You're the worst, right? So like really having something true at the heart of these false things is like really how you clinch them.
Yeah, and having that rug that you can pull out because you don't know what level of somewhat symbiotic relationship could have been developed over time, is that even solving that problem can create its own new ones.
Right. Do we really want to solve it? Is it really so bad what they have to do? Right. Like, and judging that level of like, what is too much, is hard.
But that means it's time to lift the mental weights.
Lifting weights is what I do. Look at me. Lift these weights.
Okay.
Let's make a false religion.
I'm excited because I know what I know. So I don't know where this idea comes from. But I know what I'm inevitably going to push us towards. We're going to work backwards.
Here we go. Yes.
So I can't remember if I had a PC do this, or I had heard a story about a PC doing this. But essentially the rogue character in the party constantly would like tout this religion that they followed. But it was not real. It was something that they had dreamt up. They would do pamphlets, they would do, you know, discussions, they would do all these things, only for it to become real because of the number of people that they convinced, and in turn, that level of faith behind this false religion inevitably created a portfolio that was then available, and a god was then involved.
Religion. Yeah.
So it started out false and eventually became true because of how much clout it gained in the world.
Yeah, and I feel like too that's always an interesting thing with like what's something that starts as a false religion, because you do have things like warlock patrons, for instance. Like, is it really false if, you know, a warlock fiend steps up here and is like, hey guys, yeah, sure, I'm a god, whatever, work for me and you get power, and then a bunch of people do? Is that patron really just a patron, or is that a religious thing? You know, like that kind of. Sure. And I mean, the more and more people buy into it, because is it just a numbers difference? Like, if you have a lot of people, are you a god now? You know, like, what is the difference between a fiend warlock and like worshiping, you know, Beelzebub or whatever it is? I think it's a very fine line.
I'm going to make a hilarious comparison, and I hope the internet does not destroy me. So this is equivalent, and follow along, everyone. This is equivalent to Taylor Swift. And I will say that because Tay-Tay, recently, her Eras tour is going to gross over $1.5 billion. Also, when she had a concert in Seattle, it was so much movement, it created a seismic event. That is the power of a god. That is unquestionably the power
this is how,
of a
this
god.
Is how oh, Saint Tay-Tay.
I mean, but that,
it's wild, man.
At its core, it's the same basic concept, and I'm using it as a very real analogy because in the same way that when Ticketmaster got involved and basically illustrated by the power of her fan base that this was truly a monopoly, and they had to go before our government in the U.S. to explain themselves because of the power of the Swifties.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, this is actually in the VentureBane's campaign guide. So, like, the basis of our world, like, that I use for my podcast and stream. This is literally how it works. This is how people become gods. Like, to become, like, a sovereign fae, enough fae just have to like you and believe you should be in charge, and then you become in charge. Like, it's the power of will. Like, collective will actually decides what is true and, like, what shapes the world. So like this principle is, not unfamiliar. We see it a lot in like, look at like the Old Gods series, right? Or wait, what am I thinking of? The Neil Gaiman,
The American Gods?
American Gods, there it is. American Gods. It's just the concept of like, oh, we look at gods from old mythology and they die off, right? Because nobody believes them anymore. Like this whole kind of interplay of faith and activity is kind of the root of this question.
And you also think about the power behind individual portfolios if you're looking at it that way, because I know Forgotten Realms has done it before where a god dies, their portfolio is available, and it usually gets pieced apart into other gods taking over those things. What I think about is like, okay, so if we look at the real world, the difference between everyone using a horse and now everyone has a car. There was no deity to cars. I mean, literally, that's what car people. I grew up in a very car heavy family. You talk about the car gods, like when you refer to cars in our own world, but like the idea that prior to that, like that's just not something that existed. So if we're going back to the idea that I now have is this rogue talking about the divine dagger, where essentially, if you also look at it, was there a deity to weapons? Was there a deity to war? But you've so focused the idea and sold it so heavy that now there is truly eventually a deity of daggers. And like the idea that could work and and it's super easy to draw, it's super easy to create symbols, it's super easy to carry. Everyone can carry a dagger and no one would be any the wiser.
It's easy to show in the world, right? Like you already have like people who make weapons, daggers, like already can be involved, right? Like it's a really great and easy sell, I feel like, in a medieval fantasy world. So heck yeah.
Because you also have the people that latch onto it practically, or you have your weaponsmith who say, well, I'm just going to make a whole bunch of daggers. It's going like gangbusters and they don't care.
Yeah. Well, I mean, buy my daggers because I'm, I believe in the god of daggers. My competitor down the street doesn't, so buy from me,
Yeah, and I've been blessed by the divine. And then, do you have different, from there you have different sects who, no dagger should be thrown. Or every dagger should be thrown. And you can have these different pieces and parts that go out.
Yeah, well, I make silver daggers. I'm the sect of the silver dagger, right? And you're like, whoa, yeah, absolutely.
What part of the religion is false, or is it the whole thing? See, that's interesting because initially it is the whole thing until it's not. Until
it has enough power that people really believe in it. What was your rogue trying to accomplish with the story?
Oh, just chaos.
Pure chaos. Yeah.
But then that was the point of it, was that chaos for chaos sake can only be so interesting at a table. Undeniably, you had someone come to mind. Dear listener, you thought of someone. Yes. That's okay. You don't have to say their name out loud, but you thought of them.
It's okay. Fight Club, the movie had to end for us to like it.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind, you know?
But again, like looking back to like they're presenting this so frequently that clearly it's something that this PC is interested in. Why not invest more into it, eventually making it so that it is true? And I forget if it was, I think it was finding someone that believed before they had interacted with him. And then it's like, whoa, hold up.
This got
what
way bigger than me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was kind of the start for like that next stage of that part of the story, was that, oh wait, this has preceded me. I really don't know what to do right now except know more. Like I need to know more, obviously.
Yeah, see, I think those are like probably the most innocent version of this, right? So I do feel like that really is like kind of a superstition, right? So much, I mean, it is intentionally, but when I think of like an intentional false religion, I think like a false prophet or something. Like somebody wants something, you know, from you. That's what this religion is accomplishing. But yeah, so this dagger religion. Okay, so what do they believe?
So that's a tough one. I can't remember. Like, I really can't remember what the goal of belief was, but I wonder if there is security. Because I think of like, well, and this can get to the darker side of this whole conversation of like, well, what would I try and sell it as if I was trying to just bamboozle people? And I think there are practical versions of selling the idea that everyone should own a dagger to keep themselves safe, to have, or just the practical effect. Like, you know, I have a knife that I carry around every day simply because I need knives. Is it to cut open a box? Is it to pry something open? Is it the one you keep in your car that has the thing that can cut a seatbelt and break a window? Out of the very rare chance that I would find myself in a water-based scenario and need to get out of my car. I don't know, but there's a lot of and that's how you sell more knives. That's how you sell more daggers.
No, I totally thought of this from a merchant angle. Like this is something invented by weapon merchants to sell more of a thing. Absolutely. Like, you know, the promise, like if you have one of our blessed daggers on your person, like you will be protected from this. Like our daggers will work against any of the monsters in this world, right? You know, like, okay, like sometimes a sword can't do nothing against a ghost, but our daggers, like, you know, that kind of supernatural, almost like wearing garlic, right? Sure, that'll protect you. Probably, you know, salt outside your door, whatever, like preying on the fear of people, the superstition of carrying this dagger always on you, and also being able to probably trust anyone who has, you know, one of the daggers. I feel like that's something too that you could buy into, right? So it might even be like Thieves Guild want to get involved in this, right? Like you are of a special rank or have special status if you have one of these daggers on your person, right?
I also think of like the counter to that is, oh, this dagger should work against a ghost. Oh, it didn't. It's because you didn't believe. It's not because I made a bad dagger.
Yeah, it's your faith wasn't strong enough. Because I heard a story, you know, the scripture says, like, this dude with a dagger, right?
I also think of like the pomp and circumstance that comes behind like creating one of these daggers, you know, that is air quote false. But that first time it works, you have to have if this is, you know, if you're walking that same road and this is something a PC has created, you have to have them there for that first time it really works. Yeah. And that it's an actual magical dagger.
This is like the Bible in the breast pocket thing, right? You have the dagger there and they were gonna get shot with like an arrow or something and it shatters against the dagger that they had on their waist or whatever, and you're like, see, oh my god. Amazing. Yep. So this is how you sell more daggers. This is like either a merchant thing or like a Thieves Guild thing, I feel like, to sell these daggers.
So I think the original goal, and especially in the framing that we've placed on it, I think was just to make money. Because essentially, once you get it there, you're validating that process for that weapons merchant, and then you're taking a funny play on words. You're taking a cut of those profits on all of the dagger sales.
Yes.
So then you essentially, like, you just have this wider and wider market that you're working off of.
Yep. It's good.
Okay. You do you. I mean,
oh man, there've got to be like some cool cool ranks of daggers, right? Like, if you just have general daggers out there, so you do you, I think maybe there's like a special sect or like group of merchants that have looked at this and been like, here's the way. And they make like cool daggers out of monster parts that give like some kind of blessing. So it's like your dragon bone dagger means something, like, right, it gives you some kind of special protection or, you know, divine influence somehow over dragons, or, right, like this is carved from an Umber Hulk carapace, so like this is gonna protect you in the Underdark, you know, that kind of niche stuff.
Okay, so here's my thought with that. First off, love it. What if the blade of the dagger is identical? Like that's how you know someone is truly following. There's like, it's, you know, a certain length, a certain width, like the you know, the cut of it
made by this certain company. This is your cut code.
Yeah, but after that, everything that happens with like the pommel and the handle is fair game. Yeah, so that's how you make it uniquely yours. That's how you can imbue different attributes.
That's how you customize it. That's how you do your rank, right? You add gems, like, based on, you know, your rank or whatever it is. Yeah. Cool.
But nothing can be different about the blade. The blade is the same 100% of the time.
So it's universally recognizable. And that makes it even better, because if that specific kind of steel or whatever is a trade secret of a specific merchant guild, here we go. We've got that. You know, it's like the people who make the holy wafers, right? Like at church, like, there are only a few companies that do this, or like, you know, the kosher approved company, right? It's like when you have that monopoly, that helps.
This is the way. It's Beskar.
That's the way. This is the way. Your Beskar. This is how the Mandalorians win.
Done.
We've done it. We've made a Mandalorian religion. It's done.
We got to move on.
We solved it.
Okay, we've done it.
Episode done.
So if you love this and you want to leave us a rating or review,
if you believe in the God of Daggers,
yeah, the Divine Dagger, head over to Apple Podcasts, your podcatcher of choice. Apparently no longer Stitcher. That's a thing that I heard recently. I guess they're folding.
Yeah, make sure to leave us a podcast rating and review. Please do that. Also, if you liked this, you can always tell us. You can email us at dmnastics@gmail.com, or as long as Twitter is there, follow us on Twitter at DMs_block. And to keep up with Neil, follow him at JoteManiac and me at CConowitch. For everything else on the network, you can check out blockpartypodcastnetwork.com.
So, a huge thank you to the bards over on Bombarded. For our intro and outro music, you can check out everything they're doing at bombardedcast.com. Let's head to the post-workout cooldown and stretch with the light bulb.
Light bulb.
Celeste, you have a quest for me.
I do. I have a quest for you.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk about something. It's not like entirely TTRPG focused, but it's very adjacent. And it's something I've recently gotten into. It's called The Heroes Journal is like the main company that makes this, but specifically what I want to talk about is the side quest deck that I actually just recently picked up. So the Heroes Journal is this really cool like project that launched on Kickstarter a while ago. Now it's like officially out in full flung. And it's basically like a journal, either in digital or physical form, that kind of helps you plan your life in general and themes everything as like a fantasy quest, right? So like all the way through, they have, you know, quotes from like Lord of the Rings or, you know, all the different franchises, right? Like Neil Gaiman stuff. And it's talking about getting things done as if you were on a heroic quest. And specifically, I just picked up the Heroes Journal side quest deck. And what's really fun about this is just like a 52 card deck that basically you draw one card every day and it gives you a side quest. So something to do to kind of mix up your routine or, you know, improve yourself or just try something different. So I've gotten a lot of joy out of this in recent days. So I just wanted to kind of share it. I'm going to flip one right now. They have things that are like, oh, just do 15 minutes of yoga. And then there's like a Yoda quote on here, do or do not, there is no try, right? And they all have like cute fantasy art and like there's just a lot of cool stuff, like learn a new word and use it in a sentence. So it's just challenging you to do a side quest every day with all these fun little like fantasy quotes, and just it does kind of make me feel heroic seeing like the cute art of knights and dragons and stuff and these little inspirational quotes. So I just kind of wanted to share that.
I like it. Like you said, so there's, I found it online. There's 3 versions. There's more of a D&D focused one. More of what I am going to wager is probably some Harry Potter vibes, which is the Historia Magic Academy. Then there's the Legend of Historia, which is the D&D one. Then there's the Galaxy of Historia, which is going to have more of a sci-fi bent. And then you have associated journals, but you can certainly buy the individual decks. And the one thing that I thought about for me is that I have a tendency, because I've worked IT and desk jobs for the entirety of my professional career.
Yeah.
I can sit down and live at a desk. That is not a good way. I mean, even to the point of my own detriment, where I perpetually will be less and less effective the longer and longer that I stay at that desk. I feel like I'm getting more done because I'm staying there, but inevitably my ability to produce is abysmal by the end of the day if I don't get up and do something. I could easily set like a 1-hour timer, boom, every hour, pull something, do whatever it says. I get the idea, like the productivity.
Yeah, it's just something that it's probably good for you, but isn't going to take a long time, and something to, shake things up. So, I mean, this one is like light a candle or create a relaxing aroma in your space. Like, what an easy thing to do, go out, get a nice, like, smelly thing for your desk, or, just in your house, light a candle. How often do you think to light those really nice candles that you have, like, and just enjoy that? They're just like nice little reminders. And I love the side quest, like, style, because I'm that person in video games who, like, always wants my side quest deck, like, oh, I gotta clear that log. So it's very appealing to me to, like, flip one of these, at the beginning of my day, and then think during the day, like, when I can take that opportunity to do that, to take a break and mix things up. And of course, I love that it's themed towards big ol' nerds like me, with the art and, like, seeing, little Bilbo quotes, or, like, from Neil Gaiman. There's a quote from the old man in Legend of Zelda. Like, these little things that just totally brighten my day and speak to me as a big ol' nerd who needs to get stuff done.
And as always, there will be a link to the show notes. Probably not, but there will be a link in the show notes where you can go check out these for yourself.
Yeah, the Hero's Quest side deck. Get one.
But with that, we'll turn out the lights and head out of the gym. But before we go, I want to implore you, the listener, to join us on the forums, the Discord, Twitter, and anywhere else you can find us to take part in these challenges, exercises, and other amazing conversations being had.
To do that, head over to dungeonmasterblock.freeforums.net and try some Dm-Nastics so your players don't ask, do you even lift?